Welcome back to the Cricut Beginner Series. If you didn't notice, I did take a week off because, full disclosure, I was at Disney World and I regret nothing. But we're back, and in the past couple weeks we've kind of gone over the basics of Cricut crafting. In the first video, if you missed it, I'm going to give you a quick recap. We unboxed our Cricut Maker 3 and got it all set up and did our test cuts. In our second video, we talked over the basics of Cricut Design Space. And in the third video, we talked over some more advanced features of Cricut Design Space. So this week, before we dive into our first project, we're gonna go into supplies and materials you're probably gonna wanna have to be a successful Cricut crafter. First, I'm gonna talk to you about some supplies and materials you're probably gonna wanna have for just general Cricut crafting, but then in the second part of this video, towards the end, I'm gonna talk to you about some supplies and materials you're gonna want to do our first two beginner Cricut projects that are coming next week and the week after that. So this is going to be kind of broken into two parts: general supplies, specific supplies. Here we go. And Flynn is going to join me for it, apparently. Before we dive right into supplies and materials, it is worth noting that you're going to want a place to store all of your supplies and materials. This is a really super effective and cheap solution that you can put in your house, no matter how big your crafting space is. On the bottom is just a shoe organizer from IKEA, and on the top is a pegboard system from IKEA. So I use the top to carry all my tools and my Cricut mats and my transfer tape, and then on the bottom in these shoe organizers is where I store all my vinyl and my other blanks. So let me show you how it works real fast. You can see on this side, the shoe organizer just pops right open, and there's all my adhesive vinyl. And then on this side, it pops right open again, and there's all of my heat transfer vinyl. Okay, let's unpack some of this stuff that I have up here on the wall, and I'll show you what you need. Okay, one of the first things worth talking about and one of the first things you're gonna wanna buy is a basic tools kit. This is Cricut brand's basic tool kit, and here's all the things that come in it. Let's go through it really fast. It comes with this little spatula to get things off of your mat that are stuck, like cardstock, a weeding hook, which you're gonna use every single time you do a vinyl project, a pair of scissors with a little safety cap, a burnisher or a scraper, and a scoring tool. If you're unfamiliar with a scoring tools are basically just used to create indentions in your projects that will later be used to fold them. So if you're making a card or something that's gonna be folded as an end product, you might wanna use the scoring wheel to help you achieve that. So like I said before, this is Cricut brand's basic toolkit, but there's plenty of off-brand ones that honestly are just as good. They pretty much all do the same thing that you can get on Amazon. And if you just search Cricut Basic Tools Kit, you're sure to get something that carries all of these materials. But if you want exactly what I have, I'm gonna put a link under this video to my blog, and I'm gonna link everything I talk about in this video so you can just click it and buy it straight where I bought it if you wanna do it that way. The next thing you're gonna wanna purchase are Cricut Mats. Even if you have the Maker 3 or the Explorer 3, which allows for matless cutting, you're still gonna wanna get a couple of these bad boys because the matless cutting only works with smart materials, and you're for sure not gonna be using smart materials for every project you make. So you can get these in a pack of 3 from Amazon, or you can buy them straight from Cricut. These are also linked in the blog post that I just talked about. These green ones are just the standard grip ones, and those are gonna work for most of your projects. They do have a light grip and a strong grip that are good for different kinds of materials, but this is what I use 90% of the time. So if you're just getting started, I would recommend getting a 3-pack of these and not worrying about the rest. This next one, I've actually heard a lot of debate about whether you need it or don't need it. I use it all the time, but that's probably because I'm left-handed. So I'll tell you about it and then you can decide for yourself whether you think you need it, but that is a slicing tool or some sort of straight edge cutting machine. This one, again, is Cricut brand, but you can get them any off-brand at like an Office Depot or whatever office store is near you, and you can also get them on Amazon. I love this because I'm a lefty, and cutting with scissors means I almost never cut in a straight line because I never learned how to cut scissors with my right hand. So this helps me ensure I'm cutting straight every time, and helps me line up all my projects perfectly. If you feel like you're really talented with a pair of scissors and you can cut a straight edge perfectly, you probably won't need this guy, but great to have in your back pocket in a pinch. Next up is some sort of device to run Cricut Design Space. And this is actually a question I get all the time over on TikTok, and that's, what do I use to use Cricut Design Space? Do I like to use the desktop or do I like to use the app? And the answer is kind of both. I really prefer using the desktop if I'm doing a lot of editing on my project, so you might want to have some sort of laptop to be able to run Cricut Design Space. But know that you can use 90% of Cricut Design Space's features from a phone or from a tablet. I prefer to use the iPad Pro, and that's because I design a lot of my SVGs in Procreate, and this gives me a nice large drawing surface. but your phone will work just fine for getting started and you can always upgrade later. The next thing to talk about is my absolute favorite part, and that's materials. You're gonna wanna start out with probably 2 different kinds of vinyl to get going to see what you like and what you don't like. And I would start with some adhesive vinyl and some heat transfer vinyl. That's what we're gonna do for our first 2 Cricut projects, but right now, let's just talk about them generally a little bit. This in my hand is heat transfer vinyl. Heat transfer vinyl is anything you're gonna wanna press onto a fabric with a heat press or an iron. So that's designs to customize t-shirts, tote bags. You can even put heat transfer vinyl on wood. And other things that you would just use a heat press or an iron to adhere to your surface. Most of the time, it's fabric. You can tell the difference between heat transfer vinyl and adhesive vinyl because heat transfer vinyl has a little carrier sheet on the back that serves as its lining, which means it's gonna have this smooth matte surface on the back and then a glossy side on the front that is the true color of the design once it's adhered to your surface. The second kind of vinyl that you're gonna wanna go ahead and get so you can practice with is adhesive vinyl. This in my hands is temporary adhesive vinyl. There's also permanent adhesive vinyl, and you can tell the difference between those two because it says it on the back. It says temporary adhesive vinyl here on the back. This is Starcraft brand, so you can see that's what it looks like on the back. And you can tell it's a little bit different from heat transfer vinyl because it doesn't have an attached carrier sheet. It essentially looks like a sticker. So the back has this white grid, and you need something to adhere it to your design since it doesn't have that carrier sheet attached. And that's where the next part comes in. Transfer tape. Transfer tape can come in a roll like this, and it looks a little different depending on what brand you buy it from. This is a generic brand called Style Tech, and it is my absolute favorite because it's really well priced. You can get a 5-yard roll for $10, and that's on mycraftsource.com, and it works really great. Basically, what transfer tape is it's that liner for your adhesive vinyl. We talked about how heat transfer vinyl has its own carrier sheet, so it just goes straight on your design. Adhesive vinyl doesn't, so it needs something to transfer it from its backing to something sticky so that then it can go on your project. That sounds really confusing, but I promise that when we do a project together, it'll make a lot more sense to you. For now, just know if you're using adhesive vinyl, you have to have a transfer tape. And this is a good one to have. I'll link some more in the blog post, but just know you're gonna need some of this. I saved this one for last because it's a controversial subject, I think. It's a little bit more of an investment, but everyone's always telling me if I'm gonna invest in one thing for my Cricut to get started, what should it be? And my answer is 100% of the time, a heat press. You can get a clamshell heat press for just a little bit more than the Cricut Easy Press, and they're more professional, more durable, higher quality. However, I love my Cricut Easy Press, and here's why. A Cricut Easy Press is literally just this big. The clamshell ones are huge and have to sit on a table, and they're a little more like industrial. And maybe you have a dedicated craft space and a dedicated craft table that has like a ton of extra space on it. I don't. So I need something that I can store in a drawer or in a cabinet, and that's why I love the Cricut Easy Press. And to be honest, I've never had a problem with it not adhering my designs. So because I've never had a problem with it, this is what I always recommend to people. I think it does the job that a clamshell heat press does, but in a smaller package, and everybody loves that, right? Now, if you're not ready to invest in a heat press yet, you can use an iron to adhere your heat transfer vinyl designs onto your shirt. You don't have to have a heat press. But I started with an iron, and I'll tell you it can be a little bit frustrating because irons heat unevenly across their surface and require a lot of pressure to press your designs. So you might find that you're having to press your design 3, 4, 5 times to get it to stick, and you're also having to put your full body weight against that iron to get it to adhere. Where an Easy Press comes in handy is that it's got this nice surface on the back that heats evenly throughout, so you're not gonna have that problem, and also it has this handy handle, so you can just press down on your design and you don't have to worry about putting your whole body weight into it. It does the work for you. It adheres quickly and easily the first try every time, and you can store it in a cabinet. I think I said the Easy Press was last, but I forgot about one more thing I want to mention to you, and this one is super cheap. You can get it at any craft store. Measuring tape. This is just going to come in handy when you're measuring your blanks, so you know exactly what size to make your design, so you don't end up having to recut and recut and recut. Get you some measuring tape. Okay, so we've talked about all the supplies and materials you're going to need, and at this point you might be feeling a little bit nervous thinking, Where do I get them? How do I use them? How's this gonna go? It just feels a little bit overwhelming and like a lot of information. So let me go ahead and tell you, I'm going to help you. Over the next 2 weeks, we're gonna do our first 2 beginner Cricut projects. So if you just got a Cricut and you're ready to dive in, this is for you, because we're gonna do 2 quick, easy, simple projects to make you feel like you've got your foot in the water of heat transfer vinyl and adhesive vinyl. So to do that, there's gonna be some specific materials you're gonna wanna get, and there's also gonna be some SVGs you're gonna want to get. And if you still haven't heard the term SVGs, let me do a little quick explanation for you. An SVG is a vector graphic that the Cricut reads to tell you what to cut. So all it is it's a cut file for the Cricut. So to get started on our beginner projects, you're gonna need some adhesive vinyl. We're gonna use Avery permanent adhesive vinyl, and we're gonna use the colors coral and the colors white. You can get those on mycraftsource.com. And then you're also gonna want a sheet of heat transfer vinyl, Caesar Easy Weed in white. I like getting 12 by 12 sheets, and I'm gonna get 12 by 12 sheets for the heat transfer vinyl and for the adhesive vinyl. And then you're gonna wanna grab a roll of that StyleTech adhesive transfer tape so that you can use it for the adhesive vinyl project. I also have some blanks you're gonna wanna purchase, and I've linked those over on the blog, so use the link under this video to head over there, and you can get all the materials that I talked about in this video and all the materials that I talked about for our first beginner Cricut projects. Also, if you're not a super beginner Cricut user and you don't really wanna follow along in this beginner series, but you want some free SVGs, head to that blog post anyway, because the 2 SVGs we're gonna use for our beginner projects, I've included on that blog post free for download, just for you. Here's what that blog post looks like, just so you can get an idea that you're in the right spot. I've got some videos up there, and then I've also got all of the tools we talked about in this video today, as well as specific materials for those first 2 projects. Here's the Happy Crafting adhesive vinyl project we're gonna do, and that's gonna be a sticker for our Cricut machine. And then here's the t-shirt we're gonna make, which is gonna be a heat transfer project, and we're gonna make that awesome bloom floral design. So thanks for being here. I hope you got a good handle on all the supplies and materials you're gonna need to get started with your Cricut. I hope you learned something new, and then come back next week because we're gonna do our first adhesive vinyl project, and we're gonna make a Happy Crafting sticker for our Cricut. So without further ado, happy crafting!